A clinical study published in Frontiers in Cardiovascular Medicine tracked 1,062 people with plaque building up inside their arteries. After 12 months, one group saw their arterial plaque shrink by 36%, not from statins, not from surgery, from an enzyme found in a sticky, fermented food that the Japanese have been eating for over 1,000 years. For decades, doctors have told patients the same thing. Once plaque is in your arteries, it's there for good. You manage it. You slow it down, if you're lucky, but you don't reverse it. That was the accepted truth, and this study challenges it in a way that most cardiologists still haven't fully reckoned with. But before I tell you what this food is and how it works, you need to understand what's actually happening inside your arteries right now. Why? Because the way most people picture clogged arteries is completely wrong, and that misunderstanding is part of the reason this research gets overlooked. Most people imagine plaque like grease stuck to the inside of a pipe, like the gunk that builds up inside an old kitchen drain. You pour enough of it down there and eventually the pipe clogs. That image is simple and it's sort of close, but it misses the most important part. Arterial plaque isn't just sitting on the surface of your blood vessel walls. It's buried inside them. It starts when tiny particles of LDL cholesterol slip through the inner lining of your artery, called the endothelium. Once they're underneath that lining, they get oxidized, which basically means they go rancid. Your immune system sees these oxidized particles as invaders and sends white blood cells to attack them. Those white blood cells gobble up the cholesterol, swell up, and become what are called foam cells. Over time, these foam cells pile up. Calcium deposits harden around them. A fibrous cap forms over the top, and now you've got a plaque that's narrowing your artery from the inside out. Think of it less like grease in a pipe and more like a splinter under your skin that your body keeps trying to wall off. It's an active, living wound inside your artery. And the fibrous protein that holds a lot of this structure together is called fibrin. Remember that word. It's going to matter a lot in a minute. The study was conducted between 2016 and 2020 and published in Frontiers in Cardiovascular Medicine. Researchers enrolled 1,062 participants, average age around 67, all of whom had confirmed atherosclerosis, meaning visible plaque buildup in their carotid arteries. Read the major blood vessels that run up the sides of your neck and feed your brain. Participants were given nattokinase, an enzyme extracted from a traditional Japanese fermented soybean food called natto, at a dose of 10,800 FU per day for 12 months. Researchers monitored their carotid arteries using ultrasound, measuring both the size of the plaque and the thickness of the artery walls before and after treatment. The results were striking. After 12 months, the group taking the higher dose saw their carotid plaque size drop from an average of 0.25 square centimeters to 0.16 square centimeters. That's a 36% reduction. The thickness of the artery walls also decreased significantly, and as a bonus, their total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, sodium and triglyceride levels all improved. But here's the part that really caught researchers off guard. A lower dose group, taking only 3,600 FU per day, saw almost no improvement at all. The effect was dose-dependent. You needed the higher amount to move the needle, and no serious side effects were reported at either dose across all 1,062 participants over the full 12 months. Now, this is where most people would stop and say, "Great, where do I buy this?" But there's something deeper going on here that explains why this enzyme works in a way that statins don't. And it has everything to do with that word I asked you to remember. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert was 71 years old, retired mechanic, spent his weekends fishing with his grandkids. At a routine checkup, an ultrasound showed significant plaque in both carotid arteries. His doctor put him on a statin, told him to watch his diet, and said they'd monitor it. 2 years later, the plaque was still there, same size, maybe slightly bigger. The statin had lowered his cholesterol numbers beautifully, but the plaque itself hadn't budged. Robert's situation is incredibly common, and the reason is that statins do one thing extremely well. They reduce the amount of LDL cholesterol circulating in your blood. That helps prevent new plaque from forming. But statins don't break down the plaque that's already there. They don't touch the fibrin, the structural protein that acts like scaffolding inside existing plaque, holding it together. Nattokinase does something different. It's a fibrinolytic enzyme, which means its primary job is to dissolve fibrin. Rowan, think of fibrin as the rebar inside a concrete wall. Without it, the structure weakens. When nattokinase breaks down fibrin, it doesn't just thin the blood or prevent new clots. It goes after the protein framework that holds arterial plaque together. It's like pulling the rebar out of the wall. The plaque begins to destabilize, shrink, and gradually gets cleared by the body's own systems. On top of that, nattokinase has been shown to lower blood pressure, reduce LDL cholesterol independently, and decrease other clotting factors like fibrinogen and factor VIII. It's hitting the cardiovascular system from multiple angles at once, not just one, and the Japanese figured this out long before modern science caught up. A 16-year study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed nearly 30,000 Japanese adults and tracked their dietary habits alongside their health outcomes. The researchers found that people who regularly ate natto had a 43% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to those who didn't eat it. And here's what makes this finding even more interesting. The same study looked at people who ate other soybean foods, things like tofu and soy milk that aren't fermented. Those foods showed no cardiovascular benefit. The protection came specifically from natto, not from soy in general. That tells researchers the benefit is almost certainly from the nattokinase enzyme that's produced during the fermentation process, not from the soybean itself. Japan has one of the longest life expectancies in the world, and researchers have long pointed to diet as a major factor. But within Japan, the regions with the highest natto consumption tend to have even lower rates of heart disease than the national average. That's not proof on its own, but when you stack it alongside the clinical trial data, the pattern becomes hard to ignore. Now, none of this means nattokinase is a magic fix, or that you should throw away your medications. But it does raise a question that most doctors aren't asking. What else could be working alongside standard treatment to actually reverse what's already built up inside your arteries? Nattokinase gets the headlines because the research is dramatic. But it's not the only food with real evidence behind it for arterial health. Garlic contains a compound called allicin that has been shown in studies to reduce arterial stiffness, lower blood pressure, and decrease the rate of calcium buildup in artery walls. Raw garlic or aged garlic extract both show benefits, though aged garlic extract has the most consistent clinical data behind it. Beets are packed with nitrates that your body converts into nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes and widens blood vessels. Think of nitric oxide as a lubricant for your pipes. It keeps things flexible and open. Regular beet juice consumption has been shown to lower blood pressure measurably within hours. Fatty fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel deliver omega-3 fatty acids that reduce inflammation inside artery walls and help stabilize existing plaque so it's less likely to rupture. The people who eat 2 or more servings of fatty fish per week have significantly lower rates of atherosclerosis in their carotid arteries. And the one to be cautious about? Processed seed oils high in omega-6 fatty acids. When your ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 gets too high, it promotes the kind of chronic inflammation that accelerates plaque formation. Cutting back on heavily processed foods cooked in soybean oil, corn oil, and sunflower oil, while increasing omega-3 intake can shift that ratio back toward balance. For years, the standard answer to arterial plaque has been manage it, slow it down, hope for the best. And for years, that was the best we could do. But a growing body of research, anchored by a 1,062-person clinical trial and supported by decades of population data from Japan, suggests the picture is more hopeful than most people realize. An enzyme found in a fermented food that's been part of Japanese culture for centuries appears to do something medications alone haven't been able to do. It goes after the structural foundation of plaque itself. You now understand what arterial plaque actually is, how it forms, and why standard treatments only address part of the problem. You know about the research, and you know what foods support your arteries from the inside out. That puts you ahead of most people who are still being told that clogged arteries are a one-way street. They're not, and that knowledge is worth holding on to.